listeners, and welcome to a Geek Tragedy. Or I should say a Geek Tragedy, because we're still in the middle of spoopy season. It's Margaret time. I'm Stephen, known online as Phlegmatical for various reasons.
Not,
and
is it,
I am
Holly?
your host. I'm talking over everyone. It's Margaret. And I'd like to welcome to the pod the most erudite human and my best friend, Holly Properly. Hello, Holly. I understand you're having a terrible day, but how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. All good, you know.
Well done, Beans.
Just plodding along. And I'm especially excited because in this episode, like our actual historical expert will tell you that there's no such thing as Margaret. So very, very excited for everybody
Unless
to
I
hear
pay
that.
Kit to edit that bit out.
Kit won't do that.
There's not even a person called Margaret in the entire world.
Well, there is. My granny's called Margaret.
You've blown that one then.
And that person you can hear in the background is our very own salvage man and crafter par excellence, Mark Cordery. Hello, Mark. How are you?
I am well, thank you very much, Stephen. I come to the studio covered in glue and leather dye for my work, because I work.
I
thought you were going clubbing.
Clubbing, yeah, with glue and leather dye, smashing it around the club.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Make an outfit. Lovely.
Yeah, well, I'm making an outfit, just not for clubbing.
I once came back on the train from a Labyrinth live action event and we'd been in the Thames on this big fort in the Thames, and we had to wade through sewage water because they'd forgotten to bring the pump, as they often did. And we got on the train to go home once we got back to the mainland, and we were covered in filth. I mean, like proper filth. We'd been wading in sewage water. And we were sat in this carriage, and this conductor came down, he looked us up and down, and he went, "You all want a night out on the Raz, lads?" And he meant it. We're like, sure. how very odd. Anyway, and also hello to our behind-the-scenes producer, long-suffering that he is, the wonderful, most excellent Wiley Kit, or
Biss,
what we do,
Kit, Perfect.
No, we're just going to leave you hanging there, Stephen.
Hanging Kit.
Yeah.
That's a bit dark.
No, we're just leaving you hanging.
Oh, that's even darker.
Yeah, it's because we mean like that.
Thank you very much, Kit. Excellent producing. Oh, yeah.
Well done, Kit. And Stephen, Mr. Plagway Mantle.
Did you have a little jingle for me there as well?
I did, yeah. I had a little jingle. I set it up now. It's nice, isn't it?
The other day,
that happened every time.
The other day, I told someone that we were so much more professional than we were in our early episodes, and this is just entirely proving me wrong.
Why do you lie?
No, we're not. We've never been professional. It's just making it up as go along.
I don't think people listen to us super professional. I'm all right. I'm doing okay. I've got my X-rays tomorrow as a saga of my terrible foot continues. If you're new to the pod, I need someone to take a hammer to my foot, smash it, and it all needs to get reset. We're going to have my X-rays tomorrow, so I'm kind of looking forward to getting my pictures taken, as one does. But yeah, I'm good. I'm all right. And we're going to march into the pod because for the last 2 weeks, we have been tickling the toes of trepidation and decorating the diaphragm of dread.
Still going to leave you hanging there.
Is that good? No beans looking. No.
No, it's just going to take me a while to unpick everything that's wrong with that sentence.
As we delve into the exciting traditions that surround Halloween and how they have changed the world that we live in. A lot of the geekdoms that we celebrate, and by we, I mean, obviously the people on the pod, the people I'm looking at, Mark and Holly, and behind the scenes Kit as well, have been influenced, I think, by the Gothmas thing. The way that we game, the way that we dress, the way that we cook, the way that we spend our evenings, that kind of thing, are all altered by the changing time of year. Halloween affects us all. And as we march through, Margaret, we're learning that we'll be so glad when Halloween is over. The really sad thing is that I didn't mention it in the interview that we did at the very beginning of this season. So,
terribly sad.
This is the last time you hear about it.
Gutted. I'm sure Kit can edit it in for you.
Don't say that.
I'm going to ask Kit whether he can edit everything out for us. If you can just record the word Halloween and just drop that over every time that Stephen mentions bloody Margaret.
It's because the pod's already been released. This is pod.
God damn it! Can't we call them back?
It's not in. But yes, and I'm all over the place today. I'm doing lots of leaning. I'm not sure what's going on. And kind of what we watch, everything that a lot of the things that we do, rather, that we consider geeks, geekdoms that we profess ourselves to, change subtly around Halloween. And we wanted to get that kind of vibe from around the world, didn't we? So we cloned ourselves and sent various versions of ourselves out into the field as reporters to travel the globe and bring back news and views of different people. Several of us were eaten as we passed through the Valley of Leng. So they didn't make it. Some of us were lost in the Dreamlands. Others were still battling the forces of the Mygo in Hyperborea.
Yeah, my brain is in a little container now.
But one of your clones' brains.
Jesus Christ.
No, it's not Jesus Christ. I think it's your cat.
Harley is being attacked by a cat from Ulthwar as we sit and watch. There he is.
Why are you such a dick?
But yes, our clones are out in the field to present you with interviews from around the world, not just focusing on Halloween, but specifically on the traditions that existed before Halloween, kind of spread out from England then to America and then out into the world again. Obviously, America and England have their own niche, particularly America, which doesn't have any traditions that predate Halloween or anything that predates. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But yes, we're going to go off and talk to them. Who should we talk to first?
Ooh,
I don't know. Where do we want to go around the world? This is like.
Do we start in England?
Yeah, let's start local and work our way out.
Holly.
Yeah, Holly.
Or do we start out and work in just because we've referenced?
Oh, do you want to go in chronologically when we videoed them all so that we don't reference the other ones?
Yeah, I think that might be better.
So you want to go to Germany first?
Let's go to Germany.
To Germany!
It's our Halloween Around the World special, and we, Mark and I, are introducing to the pod Julia, who is from Germany. Welcome, Julia.
Hey, Julia.
We're talking about Halloween, which for us in Blighty springs from Celtic roots of Samhain, or Samhain if you're American. The festival that's become de facto October party to celebrate Halloween is spreading across the world, replacing many older traditions that have existed for a very long time, centuries, in fact. Usually festivals that commemorate the dead, as we've been poking around the world to find out about. But Julia says talk about that kind of stuff. So let's introduce you, Julia, to the world, to our listeners. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself to start off with? Why are you a geek?
Why am I a geek? Well, I'm Julia. I'm from Germany. I live in Bavaria. That's in the south of Germany. And well, I'm a geek because I've been doing role play and also LARPing for the major part of my life. And that's where I also met Stephen on Instagram. Because we have the same hobbies, obviously, and I love the work you guys are doing. And I'm also writing a lot of scenarios for Call of Cthulhu and for other RPGs. And yeah, I think that's sufficient to be a geek.
Yeah.
I think you've got credentials there.
Very good. That's good. That's good. And I hope my English will be okay, so everybody can get what I'm trying to say.
Perfect.
Thank you.
We always get put to shame.
Right, Mark, do you want to walk us in?
Yeah. So as you've been introduced, we're kind of just trying to find out how Halloween is celebrated around the world. What traditions there are in individual countries, and also what your personal Halloween is like, what your country's Halloween is like. Is it a big tradition? Is it anything special about it? Please enlighten us.
Yes, I'll try my best. So in Germany, of course, there has been a long tradition on the day after Halloween, on the 1st of November and the 2nd of November, being days of remembrance of the dead, as probably in a lot of countries. So the 1st of November is called Allerheiligen, which means All Saints' Day. And the 2nd of November is called Allerseelen, which is All Souls' Day. So one day you remember the saints and the other you remember all the dead. And legend has it that the souls of the dead would be wandering the cemeteries or would be wandering around on these days. So I think there is a lot of the old Celtic traditions in it, of the remembering of the dead of Samhain and so on. On the other hand, in Germany, we have a lot of Protestants. We have a lot of federal states that are mainly Protestant and not Catholic. And in those states, the 31st of October is a holiday also, but a Protestant holiday, because it's Reformation Day, important day for the Protestant Church. And this day has really been, I wouldn't say neglected, but the importance of it was diminished through the Halloween traditions that came from America and that are very big here in Germany. So on Halloween, you will find all the kids going from door to door, and they have all sorts of costumes, and they have a lot of parties in daycare, for example. And of course, a lot of people will have parties at their own home, Halloween parties. And a lot of decorations. In my street, there is one house, and they always have these amazing decorations outside, even like with moving objects and scary witches that will be triggered through a what's it called, a movement sensor or something,
motion sensors,
and so on. And the children love to go there because it's so scary. So these traditions that came from America are very strong here. And a lot of, I think, mostly in the cities. I think it's not so much on the countryside. The countryside is probably a little bit laid back concerning this. So there is the importance of the day remembering the dead on the days after it, after Halloween, they are still stronger, I think. Yeah. Than the party aspect.
So it seems to be that I think America has had a big influence around the world, I suspect, in the fact that we kind of, Europeans imported the old traditions of Halloween, of All Hallows Eve, and then it just got packaged up in, masks and animatronics and festivals and children and the whole dressing up thing, and that's been re-exported back into Europe, which I kind of think is an interesting give and take.
Absolutely. What I read up is that the Halloween tradition, the American Halloween tradition, started to be big in Germany in the early 1990s. And that had a lot to do with the war in Iraq back then.
Really?
Yeah, because I'll explain. It's quite interesting. We have a big tradition in Germany of carnival, Fasching, which is in February, March, and this is very big in Germany. It's very, very important. Some people may probably know the carnival in Köln, in Cologne, to be really big, but it's basically a big festivity everywhere.
Okay.
And during the Iraq War in 1991, all those carnival activities were cancelled due to the war, because the government and the states, they found it disrespectful to have these big festivities and all this alcohol and all this partying when there is this war going on. So they canceled it totally. And a lot of people were like very, very, very disappointed. And of course, all the businesses also were disappointed because they didn't sell their carnival costumes and everything. And this led to this Halloween tradition, because they tried to have a carnival in October then. They had a lot of promotion going on for the festival things, for the costumes, for the decorations, and so on. So they tried to get this festivity in another place in the year. And it worked. And people were like, oh, yes, we didn't have carnival, so we will do Halloween. And this was kind of a starting point for this new Halloween tradition in Germany.
But it hasn't replaced the old carnival, I hope.
No, of course not. No, of course not. We still have a lot of getting drunk and going around. We have these big parades with all these wagons with themes and so on, and all the people throwing like sweets. Yeah, we still have that. But
We
now we have Halloween as a second festivity with costumes, which is
we
a
don't
newer
have a
thing.
big carnival thing. We don't have a national. We discussed this the other day in the pub. We were saying we don't have a national carnival here in England. There's nothing kind of that we celebrate like that. So Halloween is kind of becoming a tradition in England that is something that everyone can enjoy, which is
Yes.
something we don't have.
It's probably our only excuse to dress up en masse.
Unless you're larpers, of course.
Unless you're
Yes.
laughers, but
Yeah.
I mean that's kind of throughout the year. For special, everybody geek or
At Halloween, we
non-geek.
dress normally, yeah.
Yeah, for us.
Yeah.
I'm yeah.
Go on, Julie.
I just wanted to say I personally like Halloween better than Carnival, because Carnival is a lot about funny costumes and also parties and getting drunk and so on. And I'm not so much that type of person. So I enjoy the darker and like the theme of Halloween more. Yeah, and it has a different touch to it, or a different
Has that
direction
Lovecraft
it's going
edge, huh?
into.
Before we go on to this, you were saying about people used to go looking for food in the street, or begging in the streets for food back in the old
Yeah.
days. Is that
Yes.
you going to tell us about that?
So that's also something I read up, because it's not actually it's not done anymore. Nobody does that anymore. But what we had in Germany were traditions that had people, so in a socially accepted way, go from door to door and beg for foods or sweets, mostly probably foods back then. Back in the older times, especially children, but not only children, also grown people. And it's called Heischebräuche. Heischen means to try and get something from someone. So like to beg. But it's a nicer word, like not begging. And this was mostly done in the Advent days of December, in the before Christmas. So it was a little bit later than that. And they also sometimes on the countryside, it's probably even today it's done perhaps. I have not experienced it myself, but there is a tradition of baking pastries with yeast, like crumpets. I think crumpet is the right term. And you make it like a sort of like in the hair when you have what's the word? With different strands you put over each other, and it's like a pastry, a long pastry. Yeah, right. Like a braid. It's like a braid. Okay. I just missed the word. It's like a braid. And then you bake these and you give them out to people who come begging to your door, or come to your door, and you give them. But it's a tradition for the All Souls Day, so the 2nd of November, not the Halloween Day. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, same here in this country. All the traditions around that time just kind of got squashed into Halloween from either side of it. And that's how that worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what would so that's on a sort of national level. What would your personal Halloween be like? Do you have any plans?
My personal Halloween. I always try to have sweets here. I always have sweets here for the kids. And I really love when they ring the bell and I can give them something. I used to have parties, Halloween parties with costumes and a theme and so on, and making funny photos and having gruesome foods in any way, like brain pudding or cut fingers and all this stuff. And during the last 2 years, actually, I have been on holiday during Halloween, so I haven't been here. Yeah, and I will be on holiday with my son this year too, because they have holidays during that week, and we will not be here, which is a little bit of a pity. But he will have Halloween party at daycare, so he will be there for that. And the parties I think the parties are the best part, the Halloween parties.
Do they tend to be house parties, or is it more bars bars or streets or clubs hosting them, or does it generally tend to be sort of in people's houses?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you have all of that. You have big parties, also going out with music and DJs and so on. They have the Halloween theme, and you dress accordingly. but you have a lot of house parties as well of people who just like to have their own party and invite their friends. You have themed parties, as I said, at daycare or at certain institutions and so on. So it's a big thing, actually.
Excellent. I approve.
Should we go to Germany for Halloween?
Yeah.
Let's do that. That's
Well,
good.
I was
You can come over.
pleasantly
It's fun.
surprised in my own town that I moved to last year that one of the pubs has a really big fancy dress party for Halloween. So this year I'm going to be upping my game a little bit.
So this is a good place to go there and head there and
Yeah, I mean it's quite a long way to come for a small town pub, but for a small town pub, there's about 50 or 60 people all in full costume, which was most satisfying and very reassuring.
that sounds like it. Yes.
Yeah.
I'll be re-wandering the streets. Now, taking William around the streets is probably my my Halloween this year. Not sure how much longer he'll want to do it for, but we'll see.
And do you have a
Getting on.
costume?
Yeah, well, all my costumes are currently downstairs. Actually, there's usually a whole load of masks up there, but they're currently all downstairs. If not, I just have to go around to Mark and beg him for more.
You've got them all.
I know, it's true. I could get the shambling mound out of the loft and see if I'll fit inside it.
Yeah, don't try.
Mark is a little bit smaller than me, and this big whole body costume is made for him.
Yeah.
And it is quite tight to try to get into. If
Many people have complained over the years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
William might fit in it.
I have when my son was smaller, I always went with him during Halloween, of course, because he was too small. And I have a very favorite costume I always wore when I were walking with him. It's a onesie with a dragon head. You know, like such a very fluffy, warm, cozy onesie, and then it's a dragon head you put over your head. Yeah, and Mama was the dragon. Yeah. And that was always fun because it was also warm.
And easy to put on and off rather than hours in makeup and...
Yeah.
No, I think I'm probably heading that way myself too.
But the makeup part is nice, I think. I always like to do zombies or also vampires and stuff. And
The makeup is very good.
I think you have seen the Nosferatu photos, the Vampire Life I do. So I really enjoy doing these makeup special effects. And last year I was allowed to do that on my son. Not in the face. I didn't want to do this, but on his arms and so on. He had all these marks and this gross wounds and so on. And he was very disappointed that he did not win the first prize at daycare Halloween party. Yeah. Still hurts.
Next year, this year,
probably. Yeah, probably. But next year, probably, because this year he will do a Majora's Mask costume.
Nice. Good choice. Right. Shall we wrap it up?
Yeah, I think that's. Thank you very much for your time, Julie.
Cool interview. Yes, that was outstanding. I think we learned quite a lot.
I have very much enjoyed to be here.
Thank you.
Guys.
Please come back.
Okay. Hopefully you'll come back on and we can talk about Chthonian things.
Oh yeah, grand. That would be nice.
Okay. Back to the studio. Isn't that what they say at interviews? Wasn't that interesting? That was Germany.
Yeah.
That was Julia. That was grand. I thought that was very good.
Excellent.
We have learnt much.
Many new things.
Yes.
Most excellent.
Yeah. Although it turns out that's going to be probably the shortest of our interviews, I reckon, because we don't shut up in the other ones.
No, it was very difficult to get me to stop waffling.
Though you can tell that you weren't in the Julia episode, to be honest.
Yeah. Not surprised.
But there we go. Not that we've pre-recorded these. These are all live. So let's go live somewhere else. So where did we go after that? We went to America next, I think, for the first of our American interviews. Should we go to the clones that went to Boston?
The clones that went to Boston.
To Boston. So it's our Halloween Around the World special, and we are introducing to the pod Josh, who is a very old friend of mine, Mr. Devore, who is originally from some part of England, maybe a bush in, I don't know, Scotland, let's say that, and has moved to America, where he has become the mayor of the Boston Universal Ship Department. Is that right?
Board member.
Oh, so close.
Board member for the Boston Museum of Science.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Holly. Thank
More
you.
or less what I said.
And you'd be
Was it?
closer of the bush in Scotland if you said shepherd's bush. At least that would be within the right ballpark.
Okay, so welcome, Josh. We're
Thanks for
talking
having
about
me.
Halloween. We're talking about Halloween, which for us in Blighty springs from Celtic roots of sound, or as Americans call it, Samhain, because we've seen Supernatural, and that's how you talk. I'm pretty certain. Sometimes the festival, if you're from Rome, is called Margaret.
No, it isn't.
It is.
No, it isn't.
It's the ancient Roman name for
It's not.
Halloween.
It isn't. You
Margaret.
made that up once, and now you're disseminating lies.
We're
Lies.
a world famous podcast. No one checks facts, do they?
Oh,
That's been well established recently.
God.
It has become the de facto October party to celebrate all things spoopy, etc. And it's spreading across the world. Most countries that we're speaking to have long traditions that predate Halloween, because Halloween, obviously, from its Celtic roots, has spread mostly through England and then into America and parts of Australia and so forth. And usually they commemorate the dead or spirits coming together or the weakening of the spirit. Well, that is a very traditional thing for this time of year. Obviously, as harvest happens and we come to the dead time of year, winter. But before we get Josh talking about what America is like at Halloween, let's talk a bit about him. Josh, you're a geek, aren't you? That's kind of one of your qualifications for living through life.
Yeah. I'd say, I'm not born with geekness. I think geekness found me, and I adopted many of the trappings of geekness. So I mean, there's aspects of I don't think born into geekness, but I'm interested in things like role playing, some video games, computer games, but deep interest in science as well, which is why I currently serve as a volunteer member on the Boston Museum of Science as well.
There you go. So you're kind of initiated into the lower orders of geekdom, but truly your heart lies with mother science.
Yeah. And interest in all aspects of science. But I think, and Holly understood this from me as well, anthropology as well. So I do have a deep fascination for history, anthropological background and research as well. So I'm a curious person. So I think that's maybe what a lot of geeks have in common as well, is
I agree.
sense of curiosity but also imagination too, which is even how you and I met, of course, role playing.
I like to think that I sparked that in you with my Cthulhu games back from the 1920s, traveling around the world.
Well, I think what you did, was definitely. I had, I role played before in school, in secondary school, but I think what I got together when we were role playing together in Southampton was the desire for imagination with also the love of narrative, which I think is what I think really makes really good role playing happen. It's not just the rules, it's not just the games, not just the setting, but it's the narrative construct, it's the shared story building really behind all of that, which that's really cool.
100%.
That's some good credentials right there.
Yeah. Stephen's running Horror on the Orient Express for some of us at the moment, and so like once a month we go to like a little village hall, and we set the village hall up to look like a train compartment, and then we all like sit like as we would like in a train compartment on the Orient Express, and we try desperately not to die. So far, one member of our party has been shot by another member of our party and run over by another. So
I kind of want to know, in the mock-up of the train car, do you have trolley service? Like, could you order, like, I would like my omelette now, please, sir, and Stephen then therefore has to provide it for you?
Absolutely not. No.
Actually, Holly is our kitchen person.
I mean, that's going to be one star on Yelp, I'm afraid.
We do crumpets in the morning just to make sure we're all good, and then lunch and dinner. But Holly is the one in the kitchen, unfortunately for Holly. I'm the ref. Holly's the kitchen person. But I understand how Horror on the Orient Express could lean us towards Halloween. It is a spooky thing, but we should probably push on with the interview.
Okay.
Much as I do enjoy talking about, just anything else, really. Just chatting is my thing. So, just tell us, Josh, you moved from England to America.
Yes.
You grew up at the same time I did, in around the same time. So tell us, what was it like? What big shocks, big surprises?
Yeah.
Everyone spoke differently.
So let me caveat this by saying, I can't speak for all Americans. I will give you my interpretation from my own personal observations. These are my own opinions. I apologize on behalf of everybody else in America if I get any of these things wrong. Get into personal observations. So I've been here for 18 years. So I'm actually kind of curious to see how Halloween has changed in England since I left, because English changed a lot in the last 18 years, even though I
Mhm.
go back every now and again. So Halloween's probably changed over here as well in the US when I've seen it. But from what I noticed when I first came over here is that Halloween is taken very seriously in the US. I mean, seriously in terms of it's a big public holiday, probably like on par with kind of like maybe above like a Guy Fawkes night. Maybe it's kind of around Easterish for kind of like an English British kind of
Do
level
we
in terms of
celebrate Easter?
Oh, we have
yeah,
2 bank
yeah,
holidays.
yeah. You got
Oh,
holidays, you got chocolate eggs, right? So it's kind of like
Yeah.
roughly around
it's
there.
big.
It's
And
reasonably
on like
big.
Guy Fawkes night, there's loads of explosions and light. It's really weird. I don't
I
know what's
mean,
going on.
Yeah, yeah. But in terms of like the preparation for it though, right? In terms of like the build up,
yeah.
like going off and you hide Easter eggs for like kids to go and find and things like that, right? And it's Guy Fawkes Night is wonderful, but it's like you measure it in a matter of hours, whereas
What I'm taking away from
Halloween
this is I'm really bad at Easter at the
Yeah.
moment.
I mean,
Oh my God. Well, I talk about Easter eggs as well because I just love collecting the mugs you can get from some Easter eggs.
Oh, don't talk about Halloween,
I know.
yes.
No!
Back on track, back on track.
You
All
can
right,
come
right.
on.
I
You can
got I
start.
got I
Buggers.
got to talk about
I'll do an
chocolate.
Easter special.
Oh
All
my
right, book
god,
me
there are
back in for
2 of
Easter
them.
so I can talk about Easter eggs. I have a whole thing about that. Okay, but so back to kind of US differences, right?
Mm.
So how much it's present in the kind of the US collective unconscious. It's much bigger, right, than the UK. And you can see this already in the UK, right, based on like TV, right? Like there are TV specials around Halloween. That's kind of why it's such a landmark. You'd have like Christmas specials, maybe like Thanksgiving specials, and you have Halloween specials. Simpsons is probably like the biggest like example you all might recognize from that. But so that's kind of just general collective unconscious in the US itself about how big Halloween is. And then I think I'd segment Halloween's presence in the public sphere in the US into two different dimensions. You kind of got kids Halloween and you got adult Halloween. Kids Halloween is all kids dressing up, and they might dress up for like an entire school day in costumes, and it doesn't have to necessarily be something spooky. It could just be something fun or outlandish or unreal or unearthly, that kind of thing, right?
The color out
Um,
of space.
Yes, exactly. Something, yeah, truly mind-bending, eldritch horror kind of thing. I would love to see that, to be honest. And with the advent of Stranger Things, maybe that would actually be a thing too, of like something a little bit more scary. But so you got kind of the kids thing, right? And then that takes you kind of through like the stereotypical dressing up and then trick or treating. And trick or treating is a huge thing. So obviously, you all know what trick or treating is, going around to people's houses asking for the candy, as they call it over here, and that can last for hours and hours and hours. Very happy to go and spend a fortune buying kids. I go and buy kids English chocolate, Cadbury's chocolate, to give to them so I can spoil them for the rest of their lives so now they know what they can't have most of the year round. And they come to our house and we have a little baskets and stuff set up for them. And we're usually out there giving it to them. And they look at our basket full of like things like what do we have in there? Like dairy milks, sometimes Yorkies, Lion bars, things like that. And they're like, "What is this? This is like Hershey's or Snickers." And like some of their parents, because it's quite an international neighborhood, some of their parents are like, "Oh my god, you have like dairy milk, you have to try some of this." And the kids like like tentatively take some. And they're like, "If I have to, I guess I'll try some." But then they come back the next year saying, "Oh my god, you're the Cadbury house. Please give us Cadbury's." And I'm like, "Yes, my work here is done. I've tainted your taste buds. You can never go back. Now that you've had proper English chocolate, you can never go back to American
Yeah.
chocolate, which unfortunately is terrible
It
by a
is
large.
terrible. It's
It is
really
terrible.
terrible.
Yeah. It's not good. It's not good. So that's kind of kids Halloween, right? Dressing up, chocolate. But then adult Halloween is a thing too, right? That also is like dressing up, but it's dressing up and parties, like Halloween parties too. And that's a big thing too. So like, whether that's like house parties and people expect to go in costume, or else maybe punishments are involved if you don't go in costume. Also there are like, there are gatherings, and I mentioned this before we started the podcast, but kind of like equivalent of Trafalgar Square level gatherings of people, particularly here up in Massachusetts, in Salem, Massachusetts, which was the site of the very sad Salem witch trials, um, is a huge nexus for all things witchcrafty and pagan. which at the best of times is full of people who are interested in those subjects and are interested in seeing what are reputedly haunted houses and sites of the witch trials or connections to the witch trials themselves. But it becomes a huge, huge nexus specifically at Halloween too. The place is absolutely, absolutely packed with all kinds of people. But it's a huge destination for Halloween, and that's just something. It's just I don't think that really exists in the UK. With at least not in the kind of maybe it exists probably like in Ireland, maybe Northern Ireland too, but I don't know. But here in the US, I feel that's something pretty different to at least England, Scotland, Wales.
By me. Holly, you got any follow-up questions for Mr. Josh
Yeah, I
about him
guess.
being perhaps the president of the Teacup Society?
Oh, if he is the president of are you the president of the Teacup Society? Because I have questions. Many
Not Teacup Society. I
questions.
do like working on my collection of mugs. Back to Easter, right? So collecting Easter mugs, right?
Yeah.
Well, Holly,
So
Holly
here with my Frosted Flakes mug, which
I love it.
sadly was
it's
not
a
an
mug,
Easter
it's not
mug.
a teacup. Holly,
I know.
Holly
You
has a
can put
teacup
tea in
holster.
it. At what point does this transcend being a mug to a teacup if I put tea into it?
Teacups, smaller, fluted.
Have you got one to
generally
hand?
speaking.
Means you usually have one laying around somewhere.
No, because I've got this, which is a mug, but it's more of a teacup kind of
I was going
shape.
to say, but you've got your teacup holster somewhere.
I do have a teacup holster. I don't know where that is right now. I think it's in the LARP kit somewhere. But no, I mean, I think the thing about Halloween in America is that because everything kind of happens on a bigger scale, right? Like you wouldn't necessarily in the UK get people putting up like 16-foot high skeletons outside their houses, and it just feels a little bit more competitive, like in terms of like decoration and costuming and things like that, than it does kind of here. Like a lot of people here will just go out and like buy a costume from a fancy dress shop, and then they will wear that costume for Halloween forever. Whereas in America, it just kind of very much feels like is it you get that vibe that it's like more kind of it's sort of showier and more competitive.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. That's a really good point. I completely forgot about the aspect of decorating houses. For Halloween, I don't get this impression that it's competitive. I think there's a national culture, or maybe it's a mindset here in the US that it's not necessarily competitive. There is probably competitiveness around Christmas, and we get to do a Christmas podcast. I hope where you talk about Christmas lights and things like that. That there's a
100%.
famous kind of competitive nature there to house lights. But for Halloween, I think the culture is more that they're not embarrassed. I think in the UK, there's kind of more of a subdued, you don't necessarily want to show off. There's a slight kind of self-embarrassment of like, I don't want to go too big in case that offends not offends anybody.
We
but
are tremendously snobbish, yes.
Well, no,
Look what that person has put in their garden. Oh my God.
It's not just that though, is it? It's the whole idea of like, we don't want to be seen to be having too much fun. Or being like too involved in something in case somebody else says something and then we have to feel embarrassed. We are like, as a nation, we are obligated to embarrassment.
And in the US, that doesn't exist. They're quite happy to be like, hey, I love this thing and I don't mind who knows it. And in fact, I want to share it with the world. So it's a wonderful aspect of their culture. That it's not coming from a negative place. It's not coming from the competitive angle, which in competition can be not negative, it can be a positive thing. But in this case, I think it's more like, hey, I just love Halloween, and I've got all these Halloween decorations out. And in fact, we used to have a neighbor who's now moved, but they used to do a proper haunted house, just like set up their place as a haunted house. Kids could go through it, have smoke machines and sound effects and animated skeletons outside. And it's just because they really love Halloween. There's no competition there. It's just they just love it so much that it's a thing they want to put on and share it with the neighborhood. And the kids would love it too. So I'll be out there like giving out my British chocolate, and like all I'd see first of all is this smoke drifting down the driveway, and I'd see these shapes emerge from the mist. I'm like, what is going on here? And it's just kids who are aiming to go to that house because it's such an attraction, and it's such a wonderful thing that people want to share this shared public holiday and this spirit of enjoyment and fun with the rest of the community.
See, that's super cool. I have two more questions. The first is, how many 16-foot high skeletons do you have?
In my closet? Is this a very kind of like
I'm opening
like what have I got in my background kind of thing here? I have no 16-foot skeletons in the slightest. Yeah.
Curses.
Yes, no, Josh is not responsible for the New York Giant massacre that happened about 15
Okay,
years
fair
ago.
enough. Fair enough. I will find the perpetrator. I will. It's on my bucket list. So like in terms of, I think kind of like other thing, because people sort of Halloween again, it seems to be like reasonably sort of extended, and I think that's happening here in the UK too. Like throughout October now, things are just kind of, like the build up to Halloween is becoming like the build up to Christmas. Like you start to see things in shops earlier and earlier, and
And
you
it's the
kind of,
month-long thing as well, isn't it?
yeah, like a lot of like social media trends throughout October happen from the 1st of October, like, and you just kind of do, like a lot of spooky stuff happens like throughout. I've forgotten where I was going with this. I'm just waffling now until I can reformulate the point I had in my head. Oh
So I see
yeah,
that too. So go ahead.
I got it. So do people do like do other stuff, right? It's not just kind of on Halloween. And the thing that I'm most fascinated about, I think, like, and I've never actually spoken to somebody in America about this, is corn mazes and like the
Yes.
culture of corn mazes.
Oh yeah.
It's fascinating, but I don't quite
It's
get
like he
it.
doesn't live there.
Oh my god, I probably cool mazes. Yeah.
And
Oh,
you do, Molly. It's unbelievable.
okay. There's two things. I'm going to say them out just so I don't forget them. Then, so yeah, okay. So corn mazes, and I think it's specific maybe to certain aspects or certain places in the US. Because I don't know if they exist everywhere else, but I would almost associate them in the same way I think about kind of rural agricultural parts of the UK and some certain cultural things like corn dollies, right? And
Mhm.
the tie between those kind
Poppets.
of agricultural folklore touchstones to certain aspects of certain public holidays like corn mazes around like Halloween. It's really more kind of like a harvest festival, autumn kind of thing, right? And
Mhm.
that's connected to like a lot of the US traditions around Thanksgiving, things like that. So corn mazes is one. Some of the other things that don't just happen on the night itself. So haunted houses, but these kind of like haunted experiences too. That's also a thing I completely forgot to talk about because I don't know if those exist in the US either. So that's the other thing. And then the third one as well, which is kind of the expansion of Halloween outside of just it's in the evening to kind of more of an amorphous Chthonian kind of monster, kind of gobbling up everything around it is the expansion of Halloween, or maybe it's not the expansion, but maybe it's the conjunction of Halloween with nearby holidays that are very, very close in theme, like Dia de los Muertos.
Mm.
But
So that's the Mexican Day of the Dead.
that's how the whole thing kicked off in the first place, right? You had a load of different religious
Well,
holidays, and they were sucked into one day, Halloween. Now it's just
Not that
spreading out again,
so
kind of
I
thing.
think no. In
sort
the
of.
past, like I think Halloween was separate in the US. I think now because you can see it right in the fact that if you go to the store and you'll see tons and tons of candy from like what are we in from like September all the way through up to Halloween. Easily September, you'd see tons of Halloween candy ready for people to buy to give out.
Hmm.
And I want to say like maybe in the last 5 years, I've seen more and more stuff for Dia de los Muertos being in the store as well. So a lot of those kinds of decorations and those kind of the skulls from Dia de los Muertos are available to buy. So you can kind of see these holidays in a very kind of commercial way being available for people to interact with and consume. And then presumably people are now doing kind of if not combined holidays, the holidays are so close together that people will be celebrating both together.
Yeah, you can just run one on from the other, because I mean, like,
Yeah.
it's it's interesting because I okay, fine, I will
No,
wrap
I'm
it
just
up.
letting you know that we are running close. Well, we've gone overtime, but I don't really care. But
Um,
don't run it on for another 20 minutes.
no, so I mean, obviously, it was kind of, it touches on like what we were talking about with Mark at some point in this nebulous pod ecosystem structure, because I don't know where this is exactly going to fit. So at some point we have a conversation about like anthropological universalities, and well, I say we have a conversation, I talk at people about anthropological universalities.
But it's happened already.
It's happened already. So at that point, but death has always been one of them. Like death and like the supernatural is like common in every culture. Like there are very few things that are common across like every single culture, but they're all marked. Like these universalities are all marked, and I
Like
think
creation myths.
like creation myth, death rites, humor is a big one. Like humor exists across all cultures. Like often
Oh,
it's
I've done some research on that because we were asking why do we laugh? Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the biggest considerations for why we laugh is that when we were more animalistic with the panting breathing,
Yeah.
which is a way of suggesting that we are calm and at ease, and that slowly developed into laughter to show that we are in a calm and relaxed way to each other.
That's really interesting.
There you go.
Okay.
That might be a reason as to why we laugh, listeners, because we keep asking that on the
That's
pod.
very
We
clever.
we just forget about it.
I do need to do some more research on
But
that.
not me. No, I was
No.
doggedly pursuing it. Actually, it came up on another podcast, but that's not the point. I listened when it came up.
But like, so all of these things, like they're kind of as humans have created technology which allows us to expand, and like talk to people in different continents, like, and examine, things and develop together, as opposed to kind of developing in separate places with separate cultures becoming much more globalized.
Right.
And that's why I think a lot of these things are kind of all running together, because I love to think it's because there is that sort of big spark of curiosity in everyone, and you just want to experience as many different things as possible. And if someone presents you with something that you haven't experienced before, that's like a really interesting cultural concept, then you kind of just want to go, oh, okay, what's that you've got over there? What day of the what now? Can I join
Especially
in?
if you pair that with food, like chocolate or some other thing like that. Then, why
Easter
wouldn't you
egg.
buy in?
Everyone loves a bit of an Easter egg, right?
Everyone loves an Easter egg.
But I'm afraid that is all we got time for. Although I suspect that we will be having Josh back on around Easter time, if not Christmas. We'll start calling him Festival Josh, and he will appear at the appropriate times.
Yes, I love this. Oh, can we all get hats? I want a hat.
Well, yeah, I mean, I gave Josh a driver's hat a long time ago. I don't know if he's still got it. Because he used to be my driver, you see. But anyway, that's enough from us here with Josh. Let's go back to the studio. I was surprised there wasn't a tea party. I was looking forward to a tea party.
I think they're pretty contentious in Boston, aren't they?
Yeah. I wonder if they knew that it wasn't English tea they were throwing off the side. Well, it kind of was, but it was actually just belonged to the Indian trade company.
Yeah,
the
East India
Trade Company wasn't actually
the most haunted trade company of all time.
Was it?
No.
Oh.
I'm just trying to keep it in theme.
Yeah, you suckered me in. You suckered me in.
Oh, you said that, Mark, with so much like confidence that I
utterly
believed that you had an anecdote.
I can talk utter bollocks with utter confidence.
I was looking forward to the anecdote. I wonder if Josh really was or wasn't wearing trousers. He kept standing up.
I mean, he did say that he wasn't wearing pants. But you see, the thing is if it would be more like if he stood up and he wasn't wearing pants, but he was wearing trousers, that would have been fine. But because he kept saying
Josh.
pants, you can't tell which.
No.
Like he could stand up and just be stark bollock naked under there. Who knows?
Confuses me a lot as well when people are ordering pants.
I still can't believe that he's gone to be the chair of the Boston Fish Angling Architectural.
That's volunteer board member for the Boston Museum of Science.
That's more or less what I said.
No, mine had far less angling in it.
Has that got its headquarters in Innsmouth?
Yeah, it could be. It's down the road from Dunwich. Anyway, we should probably move on to Romania, where we interview the most excellent Irina. And there's somewhere in here there's going to be an advert for Steery Game, which is going to be exciting. I wonder if it's now. So, listeners, this is our first ever advert that we're running and doing with ourselves and people on this show. It's very exciting. This advert is for Steery Game, a game which I am holding in my very hands because I played it. But before I talk about it, let's talk to one of its creators. Irina, do you want to tell us a bit about your game?
Yeah, sure. So Steer is probably the most unpredictable party game you will ever play. It's a game where you steer the story of one or more characters using story cards that you have in your hand. And yeah, exactly like that one. And it has been described as storytelling mayhem, so prepare yourself for that. But yeah, overall, the point is to put the next. There you go, the mate. Is to put the other players on the spot with your improvisational storytelling.
And yes, there is that card says bone on it. Well done. Very Halloween. And it's absolutely brilliant. Stephen and I have both played it along with some of our friends. We even took it to our board game club that we run.
At Playford Village Hall on every second Saturday of the month in Hampshire.
Now it's a double advert. And we took it. We gave it a bit of a test drive. See, I'm sticking with the steery theme there.
There you go.
Driving. And everybody absolutely loved it. It is fun. It is absolutely hilarious. I don't think I've laughed that much in ages.
Easy to pick up. You can play it with quite a lot of people or a small number of people. Both have equally good results as far as I can tell. Everyone, as Holly said, really loved it. We had some people kind of queuing up to play it when they watched it being played. It's very popular. I cannot endorse it enough. It's I play quite a few party games. I'm not a big fan of them, to be honest. I think Just One is one of the other games that I liked, but Steery is something that I would pick up and play again.
Absolutely.
There you go.
100%.
Thanks for coming on.
Love it.
It'll be on Kickstarter soon. We'll absolutely make sure you follow Irina on Instagram or Facebook or wherever under Steery Game. And when the Kickstarter happens, pay attention, sign up for everything, get going on it.
See you there.
Well, it might have been. It's hard to say. Could have been. Anyway, let's go to Romania.
And now over to our correspondent in Romania.
Oh, thanks for the handover, me.
What if it wasn't you?
Anyway, it's our Halloween special, as you know, and we are chatting to guests from around the world. And we, Holly and I, are introducing to the pods Irina, who is from Romania. Hello. And we're going to talk to you about, Halloween, kind of, but obviously in England, we have Celtic roots in our festivals that come from Samhain. I don't know if you have Samhain anywhere else. Oh no, America, Samhain.
Yeah. And also it is kind of global because things have spread through globalization and technological advancement.
Margaret has spread across the world.
It was never called Margaret. Stop it immediately.
And the festival that has now become like what we associate with October, Halloween. But it's been celebrated for centuries without the need for Celtic origins in different countries around the world, often commemorating the dead. And that's kind of what you're here to talk about. You're here to tell us what it was like for years in Romania and how it's changed and whether you like that or not, and exactly, kind of how you prefer to celebrate things. But before we do that, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What makes you a geek, Irina?
Yeah, hi. So I'm Irina. From Romania, like you've said quite a few times. And what makes me a geek? Well, a couple of things. I'd say the main one is probably the fact that I was a computer child. So I think most of my free time as a child was spent on the computer, on the internet, either like playing video games or, I don't know, joining chat rooms that I probably shouldn't have joined, that kind of stuff. Learning how to use software, like coding very early on. So yeah, I think that's a big part of it. Another part of it is the fact that I am a space person. I like pretty much everything space, especially the things that are more towards engineering. I actually work as an engineer in the space sector, so there's that.
So cool.
Yeah, it is. It is really cool.
And what else? Anything else?
Not making board games or
No.
card games or anything.
Yes. Well, now that you bring it up, yes, I also am one of the creators of Steery, which is probably the most unpredictable party game that you have ever played. It's all about storytelling mayhem, and we are working on building up an audience to finally launch it sometime soon, hopefully.
Cool. Well, yes, I played it. It's a very good game. I'm glad to be part of the building process. It's been fun.
I've played it. I've been there, and it's. I don't think I've ever laughed as hard as when we were playing Styria. It was great fun. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it in more people's hands and finding out what they come up with.
Yeah,
for sure.
Lovely.
you can find out more of that later, and I'm sure we'll be running a few shout outs to it in the coming weeks. So, first question: can you tell us a little or a lot about the traditions of Romania?
Yes, of course. So, even though Romania nowadays is slowly sort of adopting the practices and the celebrations of, Westernized Halloween, I thought it would be good to maybe talk a little bit about the traditional sort of folkloric practices from around the northern parts of Romania, mainly in villages or like small communities in the countryside. So, I mean, while we talk about this, you might notice that these practices are actually quite similar to the sort of Celtic beliefs in Ireland or Scotland, revolving around protecting your household against evil spirits or, matchmaking or fortune telling. So, a lot of these themes can be found in Romanian Halloween lore as well. So I see that Holly's excited about that.
That's so cool. I really am. I love finding those tiny like connections that have just sort of spiraled into new things. I think that's super cool.
We've talked about a lot over this particular sequence of pods, and with the guests that have come on, about how similar everything has evolved, and Holly will no doubt wax lyrical about it again in a minute, but slightly differently from the other interview.
Okay, yeah.
Different
sure.
words. Wear a
Different
different hat.
words. Different hat. Gotcha.
Yeah, cool.
Cool. Tell us more.
Yeah, so Romania does have sort of its own traditional Halloween, celebrated actually on the 30th of November. And also some of these practices are done on the eve of that, so 29th to 30th of like the night between these two. And yeah, like I said, they range from protecting the household to fortune telling, matchmaking. It's actually called, or it used to be called, the Day of the Wolf. But at the same time, it sort of matches with the celebration, the Orthodox celebration of Saint Andrew's in Romania, because Romania is an Orthodox sort of country. Anyway, let's start with the spooky stuff. So how did like small villages, communities in Romania protect themselves against these evil spirits? First of all, why would they want to protect themselves against them? Because they were thought to bring like death and disease and hail and all sorts of suffering. And essentially these were souls that were stuck on earth, not being able to move to the other side. So they would just rise from the graves and become a menace to the community. So that's what was believed.
Sounds menacing.
Yeah.
Definitely a reason to get rid of them.
Yeah.
And these spirits would actually also give animals the ability to speak, and it would, yeah, which is crazy. But if you listened to whatever the animals were talking about, you would be dead. So you have to be very careful. Yeah,
Yeah.
The fake kidnapping people, and you dress as animals to like confuse them. And in this version, they talk, and the animals talk, and yeah.
But that's super interesting, because if you think about like the religious aspect of that, the first animal that ever talked to anyone was the snake that tempted Eve. So the idea that animals talking to you can bring about like ill omen and death, and that's really, there's a really interesting connection there. I think this is amazing. Okay, so talking animals.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a big part of it. And well, yeah. So how would you actually protect yourself from these evil spirits? Well, the biggest weapon that Romanians had back in the day against these spirits was garlic. So nowadays, we eat garlic to repel the living. Back then, they would eat garlic to repel the dead. Sorry, was that too much?
No, that was brilliant. That's one of the best sentences I've ever heard in my whole life.
Okay, great. Glad to hear that. Yeah, so they would eat a lot of garlic, and not, just plain garlic, but foods that contain garlic within. And not only that, but they would apply all this sort of garlic infused ointments onto themselves, onto windows and doors and any sort of access points into the house, on the chimneys, on the animals, just to make sure that the evil spirits stay away. There was another practice about, even if the spirit manages to go into the house somehow, you have to make sure that it doesn't have a comfortable place to nest. And so what you would do is you would take all of the empty pots and cups and glasses that you'd have into the house, and you would just place them like rim down so that it doesn't have a place to get comfortable in. Which is a bit crazy. But it's interesting.
I love that. I've never heard of anything like that before ever. That's so cool.
Yeah,
And you
it's
call yourself
really
a role
interesting.
player.
I know, right? Can't give them somewhere to go. Gotta. Is that why, Stephen, when you wash up, you put all of your cups upside down?
I put them upside down to stop dust getting in them, but sure. Why not? We can say that.
Okay,
But the whole like kind of vessels left face up and they collect water. That's a pathway to the dead as well in some societies,
Okay.
some cultures. So yeah, turn them upside down. You can't get water in them. No spirit world access for you.
Mm.
I mean, usually all these sort of ancient communities would find different ways, different things to do that are in essence correct, and they have a perfectly reasonable reason why you should be doing them, but they would associate them to like religious practices, which is really interesting.
That
As you
is
say,
really interesting.
if you introduce supernatural into the world by having a creation myth, that's right, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, every culture has a creation myth, and every culture has things that surround like death and the supernatural. Like, even if it's a lot of people don't think that things like a lot of the things that Jesus did, for example, are classed in the same way as like the supernatural, but it is all ultimately at its core the supernatural because it's beyond the scope of like a regular human being to achieve, unless you're like Sam and Dean Winchester, obviously, because they can do basically anything. But yeah, no, that's sort of yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, I'm learning so many things already. This is great. Love it.
Lovely. Okay, what else? There was another thing. If the spirit, was unable to enter the house or was unable to, I don't know, hurt the animals or anything like that, nests in the mugs or the pots, then what it would do is it would call out for the members of the household and ask them in like a creepy voice, like, have you eaten garlic today? And if you reply to it, whatever you say, you're going to be dead. So you just have to keep quiet. You have to be silent. And then the spirits would get bored and just walk away, try to bother someone else.
What an amazing way to make sure that children were quiet.
That's probably why they came up with this anyway.
If you talk, you're going to be dead.
Yeah. If you don't eat your vegetables, they'll come back.
That's really interesting. Like, there's...
Yeah.
Okay, like, there's it's like, don't... Like, lines of protection and, like, lines of... Because that kind of comes in
salt,
other cultures.
iron,
salt,
yeah.
Other precious, like,
iron,
commodities, iron, things like that. Like,
silver's a classic.
But things like, and like, don't...
Garlic.
There's but also things like, don't give it, like, if it does get in, don't give it somewhere to go. And like, even if it can get in and it doesn't have anywhere to go, like, don't, like, I love the fact that there are so many contingencies built in for, like, if you don't eat garlic, make sure that your house is like covered in garlic. If you haven't done that, make sure it can't stay. If you haven't done that, make sure it can't just kill you with its voice. I like the level of, like,
concept of possession of the animals, and it talks to you, but you've rubbed yourself in garlic so it can't possess you. So
yeah, it's very cool. Okay.
Yeah, they were really scared of these spirits. They were trying to do like their best.
They rubbed
to keep
themselves
them
in
away.
garlic. It's very apparent they were. I wouldn't do that unless I was very scared of something.
Yeah, all the garlic stuff, and all the rituals, and then there's also not you are not allowed to do any work around the house, or like no cleaning, no field work, nothing like that, because then you would catch the attention of the spirits, which is like a very convenient ritual, if I may say that. But yeah, that's pretty much what I could find on these traditions regarding protecting yourselves against evil spirits. Some of the things are even things that my grandma would tell me when I was little. That's how I know that these traditions exist. Because I was like talking to my grandma, and she would tell me about what her mom and her grandma were doing. So
That's so cool.
yeah, that's really
That's
cool.
a lot of generations.
That's
Grand.
there's a lot of generations. Is it something that's still done in those communities that obviously that I'm not expecting you to be an expert on like every single house in Romania, but like do people still do that? Has it become kind of like really super ingrained in culture to like put your mugs and stuff upside down and I mean probably not the garlic thing quite so much, but like all of the rest of it, is it like do people still do it?
As far as I know, I'm afraid not so much. These are quite sort of ancient, old things that were happening, and as sort of society evolved, villages became towns and cities, and then those who didn't become towns and cities, they just became abandoned. The youth moved towards the urban settings for more opportunities, and then also religion became more predominant, more powerful, so people would sort of lean more towards the official Christian practices rather than these occult ones. So all this combination of factors sort of led to what we have today, which is the St. Andrew that we have today, and it has been declared as sort of an official day off, like a bank holiday.
Okay.
So we did keep the no work was allowed one. We really liked that one. Yeah, so they celebrate Saint Andrew by going to church. They celebrate through prayer, through rest. They also celebrate the people that are called Andrew, because we like to name people sometimes by their saints, and we say that saint is going to protect them and take care of them throughout their whole life. So that kind of stuff. I think that's pretty much what's left of these spooky traditions.
What's St. Andrew the saint of?
Sorry?
What is St. Andrew the saint of? Like, so
Patron saint of.
is he a patron saint of anything, or is it just his festival because he was there at the time?
Oh, right. So Saint Andrew is, he was one of the apostles, the 12 apostles of Jesus, and he is actually the apostle that brought Christianity to Romania. So that's why he is,
Gotcha.
he's got like his own bank holiday in Romania.
Okay.
And he is considered the protector of Romania and that kind of stuff.
Okay, perfect.
So-
that makes a lot of sense in that case.
How's Halloween infecting Romania? I mean, like the actual the pumpkins and the trick or treating. Is that happening in Romania now?
Yeah, it's funny that you ask, because I did see Romania sort of slowly adopting these practices for quite some time now. I remember I was in school, in middle school. So that was probably 6th or 7th grade or something like that. And it was Halloween. And one of the children, he decided to come dressed up as a zombie to school. And so as you can imagine, like ripped jeans, a ripped t-shirt, clothes that looked somewhat dirty. He also painted himself on his face to look dirty, and his teeth, or ruffled his hair, that kind of stuff. And he didn't really look like a zombie at all, but good effort. And and I remember we were in a class. I don't remember which class was it. Maybe physics or biology or something like that. The teacher saw him, and you could see on her face that she was literally lost for words. She didn't know what to say when she saw the guy. She asked him what was going on, and he said, it's Halloween, I'm a zombie. And she said something along the lines of, you look like you came out of a wheelie bin, go home and change. So, I still think of
Lovely.
that to this day. It was hilarious.
Oh, that's amazing.
So it is happening then in Romania. It's starting to.
It is definitely more tolerated and loved among the younger generations
Right.
than the older ones. But yeah, you do see it happening. Yeah.
I was going to ask which one do you prefer, but given the choice of maybe dressing up for Halloween or covering yourself in garlic, I imagine it's the Halloween choice.
Well, yes, I think both of them have pros and cons, right? Because the ancient ones, I'm not saying that covering yourself in garlic has pros. I'm saying that this whole practice of having something, of believing in something sacred or mystical, and then having a community to practice these sort of beliefs and rituals with, it really brings you. It gives you like a sense of belonging, I think, or it brings the community together, right? Whereas I feel like today the meaning of Halloween is a little bit diluted. If I were to want to celebrate Halloween today, I personally wouldn't really know what I'd be celebrating, apart from dressing up and being all goofy and celebrating skeletons and that kind of stuff, decorating my home. So yeah, it's definitely something to think about.
I mean that makes a lot of sense. Like we've said, every culture has like its own version of like mysticism and things that surround like spooky things and death and stuff. And Halloween is basically just taking all of those things and making them sort of more secular, more consumer based, and it's great because it gives you like an outlet, I think, for, or it used to be more like, like the weird kids and the goth kids, and like everyone kind of, you had a bit of an outlet at Halloween. But now everyone's kind of got that same sort of like, hey, let's dress up and just have some fun kind of vibe, which is lovely. But you do lose that whole kind of, that sort of community, like cultural community aspect that you would have sort of, that you would have had beforehand. It's a really interesting thing to think about, actually. And
Well, there's been a big devaluation of like jobs and so forth that happen in small communities that has led to the destruction of those kind of areas. And a lot of those traditions have indeed vanished. And we've spoken quite a lot about how in England we don't have any big festivals anymore. There's just nothing in England that is unified and celebrated, except Halloween. Halloween is becoming something that is replacing so many of the things that we used to do in the past. It's really interesting to see it kind of everyone flock out onto the streets and start celebrating, put up all their decorations, and embrace this time of year in a way that we never used to. It's very interesting to see. But in the old days, smaller communities would be doing their own thing in their own way, and I think we do miss that a lot.
Yeah, I remember last year for Halloween, I was walking home from work, and it was evening, it was raining, it was cold, it was gloomy, and yet on the streets you would find parents with children, carrying little buckets of sweets and giggling and laughing, and it kind of brought a little bit of life on that street where it was just storm and rain, and in spite of the horrible weather, people were still going out and celebrating, which, yeah, it was lovely.
I mean, I would definitely consider myself to be like a fair weather Halloweenist. If it's raining at Halloween, I'm not going outside. I think that's in
the main pod that's already been released, I've spoken about last year and how I got abandoned by all the other parents that were with me and Bill because I was in full monster kit, so I was like quite dry, but they were just vanished. And I turned around, and there was just a lot of children and me. So I see, but we did all right. We had fun. It was good. It was lovely. How will you be celebrating this year?
How will I be celebrating this year? Well, I mean, at the risk of sort of crushing everyone's spirits, I don't think I will be doing anything special for Halloween
You
this
should have
year.
said playing scary game.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
scary session.
I play Stereo all the time. It's not like a Halloween thing. Yes, but well, there is like I probably will be dressing up for work because my team really likes to dress up for Halloween and take a picture. So I probably,
There we go.
but that's one thing I will do.
There you go.
Yes.
Celebrating with work. Okay. I think we've covered our bases, Beans. What do you reckon?
I absolutely, I'm fascinating. I could talk about this for years at a time, but yeah, I think for an overview of Romanian spooky tradition, I think
We've done the job very holly properly.
I think we have done the job very holly properly. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Cool.
you're welcome.
Back to the studio. Oh, where has everyone else gone? I don't know. I'm here on my own. It's sad, but basically, the reason I'm on my own is because we did these huge episodes, which hopefully you've enjoyed the first three of. But we couldn't cut them down. They were quite long, longer than we anticipated, and we couldn't cut them all down. So we've decided to cut the whole thing in half. So we're doing 3 episodes today, 3 episodes later in the week, where you get to listen to some other people. I say episodes, I mean interviews. And hopefully that will entertain you more than you usually get entertained. The other guys aren't here. It's not even the real Stephen. I'm one of the clones that escaped out into the wild. Real Stephen is shaving a penguin. That sounds good. And the other guys are doing similarly stupid things. But yeah, that's us. There'll be everyone back to do a hello, welcome to the next half of the interview later. But in the meantime, thank you very much for listening. Have fun. You have been listening to A Geek Tragedy with me, Plague Mantle, and my best friend, the excellent Holly Properly, and our actually famous guy, Mark Caldery. If you like this, there is plenty more at patreon.com/A Geek Tragedy. Production is by Kit Brutnell. Our logo and artwork is by markcaldery.com. Music is by Borislaw Kozielski. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at A Geek Tragedy. Email us at geektragedypodcast@gmail.com. Subscribe, leave us a rating and a review. And don't forget to tell all your geeky friends. Also, a big shout out to all of our genius geeks. We adore each and every one of you. And of course, much love. Take care of each other.